Emotional algebra, where the heart meets the math. What is integral is derivative as you figure out your path. Power plus emotions equals more than you can see. Listening to the wisdom
Hey
of
viewers,
our
we're
host,
picking up
Dr.
the
E.
episode where we left off in the last
Algebra with
episode,
Dr.
and hope you enjoyed the continuation of this. So here we go.
WNBA's All-Star Weekend, which just passed, and that was happened during a press conference, and one of the players made what I thought was a very sort of mundane comment. It was like a little bit of a joke, but it didn't strike me just watching it. And I guess, Doctor, you could probably put it in here so people can see it and make a judge for themselves. It didn't strike me as anything especially incendiary.
Right, and
however, on social media, it went absolutely bonkers.
It did, and I think that's the thing where we're looking at opinions. We're not looking at absolute knowledge, and that's where I'm actually. As we talked about, we try not to mention names. People can do the research. Most people are going, "Oh, I know who it is." However, in this situation, I really don't want to single the individuals out. If you want to do the research, go ahead, do the research. Whereas I think the thing to realize is there are players who can be very polarizing for different reasons. Sometimes they're polarizing because of their talent, and their talent feels threatening. Sometimes they're polarizing because of the intensity of their play, potentially their aggressiveness. Sometimes they're polarizing because they call attention to things that other people would not call attention to. They would like to just leave in the shadows, and or they don't like to feel singled out, so they feel embarrassed and they feel exposed. Sometimes humiliation. So remember, embarrassment lets people when we feel exposed. Humiliation says I feel exposed and demeaned with that. So humiliation is kind of a combination of feeling like I'm exposed in a hierarchical model. Embarrassment feels bad and wrong and weak, and humiliation especially feels bad and wrong and weak, and that's going to come with shame and guilt and inadequacy and unloved and rejected and judged. So there's all those things come with it. So we want to look at what's happening at the micro level and the macro level. I don't disagree. I think this person meant this as a joke. That didn't go over very well. And then the comment, the comments that came from it, for those who wanted to defend this other person that they felt the comment was made towards, as well as the other people aligned with that person, that situation, it just left a bad taste in people's mouths. And we have to look at that in today's media culture. We want to evoke emotions and bring attention to emotions and make assumptions that may or may not be true at all. And then we're doing that with people who don't necessarily have the experience and or skill set in knowing how to respond to things and what this comment was about, because they might have an individual relationship with that person. Like I said, a lot of athletes do, that we don't know about. And it's behind the scenes. And then when it's brought public like that, then people often are going to make these assumptions and expand on that. And as you said, the media, social media, videos, articles, and written and everywhere just go bonkers.
Correct. Now, in this case, we're talking about an example of a very short clip from a press conference. So a player makes the comment in a press conference in front of TV cameras. The clip gets posted on social media, and as you were saying, everybody's got an opinion on it.
Right. Right.
What does that do to these players? If I'm this player, I might never want to get in front of a TV camera again.
Right. And we wonder why, again, we wonder why there are athlete mental health issues. I think the athlete mental health issues go far beyond just the performance on the court, because now in today's world, we have to be aware of what's being said, what we're saying, what's being said about us, what do people think, and then we have to manage that brand, because then we potentially invite other comments, and everybody who's the next day wants to do their Monday morning quarterbacking on it. And that's where, again, I want to use this opportunity as education, that why do we want that attention to say I have an opinion about this? Why wouldn't we encourage, people to to work that out or to learn from that experience. Failure tells us when it's time to learn. Stupid says, remember, is failure times X. So in this situation, the person made a comment that didn't go over very well. Be aware. To me, could there have been a motive? Again, this is looking at it devil's advocate. Could there have been absolute just humor and not really thinking it through? Absolutely. Could there be sarcasm behind there, which is protective, that says, be careful, I'll destroy you with my words? Could have been. Could there be history that we don't know about that led to that? Could it be that view that person has got a favorable view in the eyes of others, so they wanted to try to demean and diminish their stature by saying, hey, this person and their people aligned with them didn't do something or did this wrong or didn't come along with the whole team mentality? All those things are possible. And even as we see, I think even people, when they comment on why they did things or said things, have revisionist history and also are trying to control the narrative. Yeah. Because of the way that what they said in the heat of the moment might be perceived that was only one part of them that expressed what they expressed and not necessarily consistent with every part of them.
Yeah. I even wonder too, Doctor, is it just the need for content? Like this press conference was going on, and my take from it was that the player was trying to be a little bit funny, trying to just throw a joke out there, get a laugh, but also just because there was a need to discuss something, because there were TV cameras there, because the WNBA, right, which is its own brand, is trying to push forward its product, right, and get people talking and so forth. And then you've got this player is a member of a team, which is a brand underneath an umbrella brand, right? And then you've got the player herself who's got her own personal brand, as you've talked about. So all these things come into like a collision together and gives you maybe a slightly bad outcome. Although I can't believe people got so worked up.
There is no bad publicity, right? Isn't that what some people say?
I guess you're right. Yeah.
So, and it's funny term that you use, which I think is the umbrella brand, the NBA being the umbrella. And I would almost call this what becomes the raincoat brand, the individual who has their raincoat, who's also under the umbrella. That these days, when you got to be aware of what's being thrown at you from these situations. Often people want to put on their raincoat. And remember, if you are the recipient of these negative comments, so if you're in one of these situations where you feel like you're in social media and people are making comments on things that you said, keep in mind other people and their own emotional algebra, their needs or reasons to make comments, what's driving their sarcasm, their aggressiveness, their hate, their flippancy, their need to make a derogatory comment on your content. I think what we want to look at is it's not about getting a thicker skin. It's about understanding the motives of others. It's about, again, seeing your emotional algebra too. That's why I talked about my own issues, and I say less. So one of my biggest suggestions would be to say less. I think also it's reasonable to respond to that person in maybe the way I did, or, to go to a direct message to them, or maybe say, I didn't feel that was a pertinent or appropriate comment. I think to say something back to them and evaluate them, it just kind of turns into one of those conflict escalation exercises. So be aware of what's your intention of your comment. Is it to defend yourself, protect yourself, educate, kind of bring things back to the human situation of understanding each other versus trying to critique each other? So again, these are all pieces to be aware of, as well as anybody in these situations that we see in the media. Don't jump to conclusions about what people say or why they said, or that's their only view. If one thing I think that people who view the show regularly are clear on is that we are made of many, many parts and pieces. Our parts and pieces are comprised of different emotions, events, and history that develop into attitudes and belief systems. And then we're trying to see, what do I present in that time? Our conscious mind is trying to manage what we present. And then sometimes parts of us break through and they say things and or do things, and then they go in the background. And people want to say, well, that's that whole person. No, it's a part of that person. So understand that it's up to us to understand all the parts of us and to give some grace to people that are doing what they're doing. And I don't think doing back to somebody else what they did to us is going to fix it. I think, like I said, go to education, and also then stop clicking on the clickbait. Stop feeling like you have to say something. I'm not, like I said, I'm not bringing attention. People can figure out the things we're talking about, but I'm not wanting to bring attention to embarrass or humiliate the person who commented on my social media, nor to embarrass or humiliate these people in the media. It's to educate.
Yeah, all good advice there, Dr. E. Now, the first two examples we've looked at, the thing they have in common is that they involve real people, right? You, the commenter, the player here, all the people who were commenting on what the player said. This next example we're going to get to is about a fictional character that had a little bit of a problem on social media in recent days. And what I'm talking about is the situation that happened with Elmo's Twitter account, or X account as it's called now. And it was hijacked. It was hacked into by some, they don't even know who. I've not been able to find a news story that puts the finger on who actually did this, but somebody got in there and then took control of Elmo's account and spewed a bunch of hateful language and anti-Semitic, nastiness and so forth. And then finally, they were able to, the Elmo folks were able to get control of the account back, and they apologized, not surprisingly, and so forth. So what do you think about that, Dr. E? That is a sort of different use of social media to, I guess, put some opinions out there.
Right.
Or not nice opinions. What we could speculate on the motives too.
Yeah. And I think, to me, there's obviously, I think you mentioned a crime of opportunity in ways that they were able to obviously hack into this account and put this product out there that is not commensurate at all with any of Elmo or the children's television workshop. So again, you're trying to negatively impact a brand by putting things out there that do come from a place of hate. Remember, hate is protective. Hate pushes us away from things that we feel have caused us pain and are causing us pain and or could cause us pain. And then the point to me of then what's done is the idea of wanting to have power over in terms of affecting the brand of Elmo, the brand of Television Workshop, and the people of the Jewish faith. This is not an issue in how it's projected about the government of Israel. This is about an entire faith of people that have experienced a lot of turmoil throughout their history. And obviously, this person has their own turmoil. To me, the person who would put something out there, who's looking for power over in a way that really was hiding behind. And that's where we want to look at the ways people hide behind these, whether it's a hacking situation or even their comments on social media. I often ask people, if you were in the mall and you walk through the mall, and would you cut in front of somebody, or would you stop somebody who is having a discussion with somebody else about something in their life and feel the need to comment? No, you wouldn't. So that's the thing to look at, the context of which we allow ourselves to do these things, and do it from a place of, to me, of cowardice and fear, and how people might think of me directly. So I'll just say it through this other person and try to bring down more. So you have to look at the insecurities of people that respond this way, whether it's an Elmo situation like that, or even people who are commenting on social media with the drive-bys.
Yeah, with the Elmo situation, one thing that strikes me about it is that somebody is doing it in a very surreptitious way. Okay, so the other examples we talked about, you got somebody, a WNBA player in front of a TV camera, totally being herself, saying something. You've got somebody commenting on your thing using under their name, their real name, we believe, seems like it. And in this case, you've got somebody hijacking so that the perpetrator is hidden, but then they're blasting out all this propaganda essentially that they want to get out there. Which there's an air of I don't know, fear, I guess, associated with that, right? Like they want to put these ideas out there, but they're afraid to attach their own name or image to it, and I guess want to use the reach of some other brand that has some social agency, right?
Right. And works totally counter to that brand. So if you want to reach a different population, then you try to go through an emissary of that is a member of that population. If you wanted to reach a bunch of people who have issues with the Jewish faith, well, then you're going to comment through people who are going to resonate. So obviously there's an interest in trying to reach into this other population and disrupt their emotions, their beliefs, their comfort, their security, and then put an opinion out there that is just unhealthy and is harmful and painful and derogatory and just vicious.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that struck me about it is I wonder, is it possible that it was all just a prank meant to, I don't know, entertain some people who are bored in life and have, above average hacking skills?
Well, I still say there's still truth, that's expressed through humor, and that's sarcasm. So sarcasm is that aggressive form of humor that if they're laughing about it and they then say, "What's the matter? Can't you take a joke?" And that's what often people do. Well, I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke? We still want to look at all of the variables that go into that humor.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it okay because people wanted to have a laugh at the expense of others. That is about having power over. That to me is about emotional immaturity. That is about trying to undermine other people's joy and happiness because you don't feel that same joy and happiness. I mean, look at what Elmo represents. Innocence, joy, happiness, love, connection. And then somebody wanted to come and try to undermine that purposefully. Humor or not, it's something that we want to look at. If we want to change the world, then first change it within yourself.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like what would be a possible motives for that? Because it's almost impossible to speculate on the motive since we don't even know who it was that was behind it.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Is it somebody out there who's really trying to get their anti-Semitic views aired in the public, or is it somebody who's just wants to get, do that because they know it's a disruption and they know that it'll be covered by the media and gets in the news and they get some sort of, they get
it's still
out of
regardless, it's still part of their views.
Yeah.
Even if they say, well, I did this to be funny, still somewhere in there, guess what? Those are things you believe because it came out of your fingers, your keyboard, your mouth.
Yeah.
So look at that part of you that believes that and look at your own inadequacies that drive that. And if you feel that there are injustices out there that are being perpetrated, then seek justice. Don't seek the drive-by. Don't seek undermining other people's their lives, their brands, their presentation. So be mindful of what you're doing and why you're trying to do it and be honest with yourself. And I think that would change so much of what's happening in our culture. You brought up in our discussion about the algorithms. Well, the algorithms look for content that would be emotionally evocative. Guess what? If we stop responding and clicking on things and because somebody else clicked on it and somebody else clicked on it, what would change is the algorithms would change. The follows would change. The likes would change. And then it wouldn't be monetizable anymore. And then it would go away.
That's going to be hard to do, Dr. E. People got to get their comments in, on social media.
and again, then ask yourself why. I always tell people in situations, say less. Say less in reaction to. Say maybe more in a response to.
It seems to me like the ultimate first world problem, right? It's because we're bored. People are bored is the answer. I think at least that's some of the answer, right? If think of it, 100 years ago, or maybe more than 100 years ago, 150, let's say like mid 1850s, right? What was life in the United States like? You were probably manually working physical labor 10 plus hours a day.
And probably talking crap about people while you're out in the field working,
Correct.
or talking crap about people at your dinner table, or
But it was limited to that. If you're out on the job and you're talking crap about people, it wasn't being blasted to millions within seconds. right? It was
No, it
just
wasn't.
staying within that group of a dozen people, let's say.
Right. And still then it's not that what behaviors people have changed their behavior necessarily because they're more bored now. It's that they have a different megaphone, and they have a really big megaphone.
Certainly.
And and in that, so I think that's the thing to realize is, why do we want to use our megaphone like that? Because we want power. We want to feel better about ourselves by making this comment that then we have to deal with our own feelings of guilt and shame and failure inside that we have to bury. So then we fall into arrogance and defiance and denial and flippancy and all those protective emotions. The pattern repeats itself because we're not changing.
Yeah, you talk about the megaphone. It reminds me of something I heard a long time ago, right when Twitter actually came out, which I think is like 2007, 2008, around there. And somebody said I thought it was very good advice at that time, especially at that time when no one even understood what Twitter was. And it was basically like, approach Twitter as though you're saying something on there, as if you're in the middle of a football stadium and you've been given, the mic for the PA address system, and everyone's going to hear it.
Right.
Now, would you really say it if you had the mic inside of a packed stadium? Well, and if so, then go ahead, say it on Twitter.
Yeah, this to me it's another form of disinhibition. We look at crimes that were committed that, since one person did it, other people did it, and they all joined in, whether it's vandalism or even people that would engage in public lynchings. This is kind of similar emotionally to that. While I don't want to diminish the horrible nature of those public lynchings that happen, it's driven by similar emotions and maybe an intensity, and maybe we wouldn't want to see that way. I think maybe if we make this connection to behaviors like that, we can check ourselves and look at ourselves and, why am I adding to this? Why am I watch them, in essence, hang this person in social media, in the comments that are be said, or the things they're doing, and are joining into it? Be part of the solution, not part of the problem, because that to me is and continues to be a horrific part of our history, socially, societally, behaviorally, historically. And I think that's, again, if we want this world to change, we have to make those individual choices to do things differently.
Yeah. So overall, Dr. A, sounds like what I'm hearing from you is spend a little less time on social media in general. Is that right?
Well, and choose what you look at. I love that people look at these great stories. I say, I've been now on my feed these days because of what I don't click on and what I do click on. Saw a great story about, about these animals that are coming and asking humans for help, that get the help. Now, could people say, I don't believe that story? Sure, you could. But the story is still about us all needing to be in this together and help each other, whether it's a whale or whether it's a dog or whether it's a bird or whether it's a human, that's in a difficult situation that does need the help of others. Helplessness says that we need help. Hopelessness said it's time to find hope. But often by the time we feel hopeless, we don't trust helplessness at all. And we don't trust that we can get help. And we don't trust that anybody cares about or loves us. So we turn further away. And then guess what we turn towards? Anger, rage, hatred, defiance, rationalization, justification. We use those emotions and they turn into weapons, rather than do we see what happened to us where we could have helped each other through these situations in life. So be a part of the solution. I'll say it again.
Yeah, good advice, Dr. E, as always. And I would say too, you turn into all the stuff you just said there, it turns into these drive-by comments, right? Like that's almost the outlet for what you were just describing there. Or in many cases, I don't want to say all cases, obviously.
Right. Yeah. So again, it's up to us to change this world. It's up to us to change what we watch. It's up to us to continue to engage in things. And if we want to believe from a point to me of learned helplessness, that this is just human nature, I'm going to say, check yourself again and look on that and see what options and choices that you have, even though they may be difficult, even though we may have that drive towards anger, rage, hatred, retaliation. We still want to look at our choices, to look at all of our algebra, all the parts and pieces, and make choices that sow love, trust, support, community, than ones that undermine that. So until next time.